Once again, we're very fortunate to have a very strong support coming from the Department of Tourism, in as much as we wanted to expound more on the number of schools and institutions and even regions. We were constrained, of course, with the limited time and resources that was given. And so later on, you will see some of the opportunities for future research. And so I'm going to just present the results and findings in a more synthesized version. As presented earlier, the main objective of this paper is for us to be able to identify gaps in the implementation of the ASEAN-MRA using different variables and apply it into the different sectors of education in the Philippines. And so, moving on, so we have the following findings. So first, of course, we were able to determine that there's a low level of awareness for the Department of Education and TESDA schools. Thus, there is a need to intensify awareness training for this educational sector. So, though we're conducting a number of cascade trainings in the different institutions, it seems that in terms of awareness, dissemination stopped with those who attended the training. So those were the major concerns that we discovered, and we really wanted to populate, of course, at the onset, awareness, because you can never have understanding and then at the same time appreciation if there's no awareness. And we also, another finding is that work experience qualifications of the faculty do not meet the requirements of the Common ASEAN Tourism Curriculum. So in some of the institutions that we were able to visit, faculty members doesn't have the requirements or the right qualifications. Also, in terms of the training materials, the ASEAN-MRA on tourism professional toolboxes were not being used as training materials. So they are using a lot of documents, okay, but in terms of the utilization of the toolboxes, these are not being maximized. And so it's actually a big waste, because these are wealth of materials developed by experts, and yet it's not being utilized. So those are some of the realizations that we had. In terms of the facilities of the identified tourism and hospitality training schools and centers, some do not meet the requirements of the CATC, or the Common ASEAN Tourism Curriculum. Thus, we have some of the recommendations that were given as part of this research. There are also sectors who have not aligned the curricula in tourism and hospitality with CATC, and not all educational sectors or institutions support assessment and certifications, which is actually a very critical aspect in the implementation of the ASEAN mutual recognition arrangements for tourism professionals. And so, what have we recommended? So, as part of our recommendations for faculty, we recommended that there should be a mechanism to commit cascade of learning that should be implemented. So it doesn't rest on those who attended the training, in which case we as ASEAN master trainers and assessors, as soon as we were able to cascade this to national master trainers and assessors, they can actually conduct similar trainings in their respective regions. That way, we will be able to populate awareness and then at the same time utilization of the materials. There should also be periodic monitoring that would be instituted to measure how learnings from these seminars and trainings were communicated and integrated in various educational systems. So, meaning to say, as we provide training, we have to be able to leverage how this trainings were given appreciation in terms of integration in the whole educational system. Also, a wider scope is reached through webinars, and this could be done using the clustering approach. This was mobilized during the pandemic, and of course, care of the Department of Tourism, TESDA, and the whole convergence team were able to deploy a great number of ASEAN MRA training and workshops. Now, for the curriculum, so faculty have low level of awareness on how the current curricula and programs can be made compliant and aligned with CATC. And so, having said this, okay, of course, though HEIs affirm their practices conforming with standards, there's little or no evidence how they have mapped their competencies via the CATC. So when we asked them, they said, yes, we have aligned our curriculum with the standards, but in turn, when we asked them about the process that they did, they weren't able to tell us how the process was operationalized. And so initiative should also be taken by these institutions to undertake curriculum mapping to identify the gaps. So that way, we will be able to really determine which among the 242 competencies of ASEAN-MRA TP are really implemented in the whole curriculum spread of the program. Another recommendation is for CHED, TESDA, and DepEd to constantly communicate in order for the programs to have a harmonized or seamless progression of competencies from levels 1 to 8 as part of the implementation with the Philippine qualifications framework. So basically, those are some of the recommendations that were given in the area of the curriculum. And moving forward, of course, for the Department of Education, as a primary mover of the convergence, in the area of faculty, so they have to be able to review the qualifications of teachers handling specific TechVoc subjects so that they can ensure delivery of instructions according to what is being required by TESDA. TESDA stands for the Technical Education Skills Development Authority, and alongside to provide intervention programs for teachers with limited experiences to handle subjects in the tourism sector. So this could be in the form of immersion, trainings, and workshops. In the area of facilities, improvement of facilities should be undertaken according to the standards of the Common ASEAN Tourism Curriculum. In the curriculum, closer coordination with TESDA for review of the CGs or the curriculum guides. Okay, now, for TESDA, for our recommendations for the Technical Education Skills Development Authority, in the area of faculty, review qualifications of teachers handling specific TechVoc subjects so that they can ensure the delivery of instructions are according to what's being required by TESDA. Also to mobilize intervention programs for the teachers so that they can be consistent with the teaching methodologies. In terms of the facilities, a stricter audit system should be in place to check all training and assessment centers periodically so that they can comply with what is being required per qualifications. So in the area of curriculum, regular updating of the training regulations. Earlier, one of the wish lists is to have an NC4 for events, and this could be something that could be a reflection of how improvements can be done using the Common ASEAN Tourism Curriculum. And also coordination with the Department of Education for the alignment of newly promulgated training regulations. So sometimes communication is not so firm, and so we end up not maximizing recent documents so that we can train and certify our workforce. In terms of the recommendations for the Commission Higher Education, so there's a need to check on the qualifications of faculty members handling subjects with defined qualifications. Also to invest on immersion programs similar to what we have recommended for TESDA and the Department of Education. So in the area of curriculum, more involvement of the industry in terms of curriculum review, in terms of rationalizing the new competencies or skills. So this could be something that has to be undertaken so that we can improve the curriculum. For the facilities, okay, so I think now we're realizing that we cannot have an excellent instructional process without all of the facilities being compliant with the standards. And so while private institutions go beyond what is being required by the Commission Higher Education CHED Memorandum Order in the area of facilities, other public institutions would need funding to support enhancement of facilities and acquisition of tools and equipment. So for the Department of Tourism, so one recommendation is awareness campaign must improve documentation of how they promote awareness with whom, okay, the targeted audience, and in what context. There's also a need to measure, okay? Measures should be driven to target groups with least information, and indicators to suggest awareness campaign success should be clearly defined for monitoring purposes. So measurement, so these are some of the things that we would like to recommend. And at the same time, monitoring of the utilization of the post-training development plans. And of course, to include national certification of employees as a criteria in accreditation. Now, another very important sector as part of the convergence is the Tourism Industry Board Foundation Incorporated. And we've recommended to provide assistance to CHED, TESDA, and DepEd on industry immersion programs, connecting them to partner establishments. And at the same time, providing training programs that will strengthen the capability and capacities of faculty members, industry practitioners, to level up standards of services in various types of enterprises, and to recommend more qualifications to align with ASEAN-MRA on TP qualifications, with TESDA tourism sector qualifications. Of course, we acknowledge that in terms of research, there are a lot of opportunities to further these things that we've done. And so, of course, we are aware that the follow-up study can be done on a regional and provincial basis rather than on an island basis, because initially we've done it in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. So we can get a very good representation of the readiness of the trainers, training facilities, and the curriculum. So this would be needed to create a national initiative among the various educational agencies to strengthen and create a seamless and progressive tourism and hospitality programs. And of course, another opportunity for research is to develop a seamless curricula for DepEd, TESDA, and CHED that can be piloted in several schools. And here in the Philippines, we have centers of excellence. And of course, having identified the schools, okay, in various regions, they can be utilized as a benchmark for the programs that we are offering. So that's it, I guess, for the results and findings of this research. Thank you very much.
Mission is to form a network or clusters of ASEAN universities so that the researchers could come together in order to work jointly and also contribute to the ASEAN region itself.
Mabuhay! A pleasant afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 15th ASEAN Tourism Research Association Tourism Forum.
Mabuhay! Love the Philippines!
There's so much of future in event management actually. You can do general or you can specialize. It was actually inspired, just to share a little bit of the history of ASEAN Tourism Research Association. It was inspired by someone who was an advisor to the Ministry of Higher Education back in 2011. He called me and he said, why don't you start something that's very different from others? So I said, okay, let's start ASEAN Tourism Research Association. Why don't we do that?
We are very grateful to have our distinguished guests with us today. Thank you for bringing back the sunshine to the Philippines.
The future of MICE, business events in ASEAN, and the progress of the ASEAN-MRA TP hinge on innovation, sustainability, and teamwork. Today is the perfect opportunity to come together and enhance these efforts.
And another thing that Thailand has realized is that we have a lot of festivals. We have introduced the concept called festival economy so that we can bring festivals locally up to the international level.
The National Tourism Development Plan of 2023 to 2028 has been approved. And this plan seeks to build a tourism industry that is deeply anchored on Filipino culture, heritage, and identity.
What is next future? Future means not next 5 years. Future is beyond that, right? What is next 2040, 2050? In terms of workforce, we won't have many. So this is where the utilization of AI is important.
We are assured that the Philippine workforce are actually competent and their competencies are recognized and at par with international standards.
The thing that we are expecting, most of my colleagues, is if we have a branding but we don't have a strategic action to support the branding, it's useless. The distance between idea and success is execution. And most of the time, the problem is execution.
We were very fortunate that all the schools selected were actually part of the same region for Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao.
I must congratulate you for all the sharings that you have shared with us for tourism and MICE industry.
Mabuhay! Love the Philippines!
Love the Philippines, love Metro Manila, it all starts here. Mabuhay at maraming salamat. Thank you for your time and attention, and let us work together to continue to transform the future of MICE in ASEAN and beyond.